So I'm glad to see all of you, or some of you, on such a beautiful day. And it does indeed seem like spring already. And it just feels wonderful outside. And this day, what I'm going to do is actually continue a little bit on the theme that Muksan Rinpoche spoke on when he came here. And that was last week. And by all accounts, we're all still pretty gobsmacked. I didn't know what that word meant until it happened to me. It was Ani Pema's word. She always says, "I'm sorry, Jetsunma, I'm just so gobsmacked at the moment." And so now I know it's kind of looking at like headlights. Sort of like that. And that's how it is around Rinpoche. He's so supremely elegant and so radiant in so many ways. And the love that just pours from his heart is just scrumdelicious. But interestingly, even though he is the very incarnation of Migyur Dorje, one of them, the mind emanation, in fact, and though he is capable of teaching the most profound teachings, and has certainly practiced the most profound teachings, and his capability, his qualities, and so forth are not to be doubted when you have only to look at him and listen to him and can see, unless you're blind and gobsmacked by something else, you can see how marvelous he is. And yet, when he speaks, it's very simple and very elegant, and he doesn't try to make it hard on anybody. He tries to lead through inspiration, and I love that quality so much that I thought I would try to emulate it. Yeah. So, mainly what he talks about is intention. He talks about motivation. And how he puts it is his own style. But he said that above all, we should strive to have a good heart. And I wondered, what did it mean? What was he saying to us when he said, "No, I don't want to give empowerment. I just want to be with you, at this time of Chokar Duchen," because we had asked for empowerment, and no, he didn't want to give empowerment. He just wanted to make it very simple and very family style, very elegant. And that's exactly what happened. I think we all, during his visit, got a deeper and more profound sense of the nobility of the Payul family. Because he is such an excellent part of that family, such an extraordinary part of that family. And for me, the connection with Rinpoche is very old. We didn't just meet each other. The first time that I went to the monastery, I was telling Rinpoche the story the other night at dinner. When I went to the monastery, everybody kept saying, "Do you know that guy? Do you know him?" And Rinpoche would be standing over there just looking at me. And then he would go like that, and I would go like that, and I would say, "I've never been here before. How do I know him? How is that possible?" But everybody would say to me, "You recognize him? Do you know him? Do you know him?" And so finally we met, and that's when gobsmacking began. And then I found out that he was the incarnation of my former guru, and that we had spent many lifetimes together working for the benefit of sentient beings, and in particular for the Payul family. And so in many ways, he is like my Vajra brother, my closest brother. I think closer to me than any of my relatives, by a long shot. And so I'm very glad that his intention is to come here again and again, as he said, and at some point to stay for extended time, and to continually do that. I mean, that is his that is his desire. And I think it comes from a while back, a couple of years ago, when the boys, the three incarnations of Figure Dorje, went to Sedona, and we all talked. And I told them personally that although His Holiness is so busy and has so much responsibility, that here in Maryland we needed more support. And so from that, apparently they have been talking, and that's the way it's going to be, is that we're hoping Muksan Rinpoche will come here more and more, and he has indicated that he will give that support. And I'm really happy about that. It makes me feel, how can you say it? Loved. It makes me feel cared for by my true family. And we should all share that feeling, because he made it very clear that this is not nothing, it's not a personal thing, it's a reunion of this family. This very ancient, very noble family that has accomplished so much appears again and again now into modern times to benefit sentient beings. Emaho, isn't that wonderful? I mean, that is so extraordinary. And so listening to him teach, I was struck by how simple his message was. Care for one another. Be in harmony with one another. Support one another. That was really one of the main things that he said in terms of advice to the Payul family. He didn't give much in the way of very advanced, like Dzogchen practice or empowerment or anything like that. But he said that the most important thing is to have proper intention. And so I want to expand on that, because I want to make sure that we all are on the same page and we understand what he's really saying. It's clear that when we sit down to do some Dharma practice, that we should dedicate our efforts. We've been taught that from the very beginning. And so that's not so hard to understand. But the tendency is, since we're such a materialistic society, the tendency is to think this for that. You know, you measure things out, it's very solid, it's very real, it's very material. So we think, oh, here, this practice, now I've said this practice, so I'll dedicate that practice. And so, I mean, that's a natural way of thinking for a materialistic and dualistic mind. It puts things into certain kinds of context that it can grapple with better. But I think what Rinpoche was talking about, he was talking about proper intention being born constantly. Now, if you think about it, many times lamas have been asked, well, what is a tulku? What exactly is a Rinpoche? When I was first recognized, that's what I asked. And what is that? He said, you're this. And I said, and what is that? So that's a fundamental question, and one that everybody asks. One definition for a tulku is a consciously incarnating being, meaning that they are not at the whim of samsara like ordinary sentient beings are. Ordinary sentient beings kind of bounce around in samsara until they create enough virtuous causes to enter onto the path of Dharma and begin to, climb, to begin to make advances, to begin to awaken. And for most of us, we like to think, and in the New Age kind of teachers and New Age kind of thinking, which is based on New Age stuff, which is happening now, which therefore has no history. But anyway, New Agers say, oh, we are incarnating purposefully in order to learn something. I wish it were so. I wish we knew exactly what we were doing and were safely taking step by step. I wish it were that way. But it's not the case. This is not what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught that we begin to awaken when we begin to give rise to the bodhicitta. And of course, the bodhicitta is awareness of the nature of phenomena and therefore the compassion that goes with that awareness. Bodhicitta is compassion, but it's more than that. It's more like awakening to the natural state, to the primordial wisdom state, which is, in its expression, bodhicitta. So, when we begin to give rise to the bodhicitta, something extraordinary begins to change. We begin to move away from this self-concern and rumination about self. We're like cows chewing on our cud all the time about self. We're always thinking about ourselves. We're always thinking about how we feel about this and how we feel about that and how we don't feel about this and how we do feel about it and blah, 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 blah. And we just go on, and even though we wear the monk's robes or the nun's robes, or we carry a mala and we try to do some practice and we try to dedicate that practice, still in our normal minds we are just filled with self-concern. And that being filled with self-concern and constantly ruminating on the parameters and qualities of self-nature is the very antithesis to giving rise to the bodhicitta. It's the very antithesis to having good intention. Because good intention is not something that should be simply practiced when we do our practice, but it's something that we should live with every moment. We should constantly watch our minds. But not in the sense of self-concern, in that grasping way where it's revolving around the ego, but rather watching our minds in order to establish the precious awakening, in order to establish loving concern. So, in other words, when we catch ourselves thinking only about ourselves and holding on to that and thinking that, oh, it's very important for me to be right, it's very important for me to be honored, it's very important for me to be loved, and all these things that, our agenda. That kind of thing actually only brings more suffering. A person who is filled with self-concern is a person who is suffering. And the more we are absorbed in self-concern, the bigger, oddly enough, our ego and our problems get. It's like a magnifying glass. And being ordinary sentient beings, we are all addicts. We are addicted to samsara. We are addicted to excitement, to pleasure, to feeling anything that we can call ourselves. We are addicted to stimulation. We're like junkies. The very idea of meditating on emptiness is terrifying to many of us. You mean me not here? What? I can't imagine a world without me. And so we fool ourselves into thinking we're actually doing our practice, and we're all set up, we got our robes on, and we got our books, and we got our things. But in fact, we're mostly all set up, ready to do our practice. So it's kind of funny like that. Without the proper intention, we can think we're doing the right thing or try to do the right thing and end up really going off of a cliff. So I think Rinpoche's message was that intention is everything. And intention is something that should never leave one's mind. Like, for instance, if I were to think, I'm going to go, and everyone knows I like to feed birds. Everyone knows this because, well, everybody gets to help. It's one of my great loves. I love to see those giant ravens swoop in, and I love to see the hordes of them appear in my backyard. I love to see them argue with each other. I love to see them get fed when, there's not much food around. And I really love that. So on that level, I'm satisfying my personality. But wouldn't it be a missed opportunity, say, if I think, gee, I love the blackbirds better than the bluebirds, the red birds better than the gray birds, and boy, I really get personal pleasure from this. I feel very good about myself when I see fat birdies in my yard. That's a lost opportunity. I think what Rinpoche was saying is, watch that. It's a subtle thing. When you're saying to yourself, I feed the birds. Wherever I go, the birds are well fed. I'm really special. When we get to that level, it's time to stop, take an about face, and ask ourselves, why are we Buddhist? Why are we practicing? And what is the point? And so when I feed the birds, I really like to make it a practice, or more clearly when I see Tashi feed the birds, or Norbu. When I see the birds being fed, I think to myself, may everyone that receives this feeding, and particularly those that are offering this feeding, be reborn in the retinue of Guru Rinpoche. May they be reborn on the copper-colored mountain. May they always receive the nourishment of Dharma in every lifetime. And in fact, may they receive every sort of nourishment that any being could possibly want. And make prayers of generosity like that. When you see the birds come and you make prayers like that, it gives rise to a happy heart. When you see even just animals that you feed every day, you might think to yourself, oh, time to feed the dogs. Oh, it's such a pain. I have to set aside time every day to feed the dogs. So when you think like that, you're missing a wonderful opportunity. Because instead you can think, now I have this opportunity to give this nourishment to these beings who need it, who depend on me. And therefore, may these beings always be in my retinue. May they always be joined with me with Guru Rinpoche in the copper-colored mountain. And I make all these outrageous prayers. May they be reborn in their very next life as Nyingma practitioners. And just fill my life with that kind of thing. So that instead of your ordinary thinking, which tumbles around in your head, and when you listen to it, it's not that great. It's a little judgmental. It's a little selfish. It's a little neurotic. Judgmental especially. So when instead of our ordinary rhetoric that we have going on in our beings, instead we substitute this constant effort to have good intention. And then it gets really hard when it's easy when it's birds, because you think, well, of course, everybody wants good things for birds. And then when your dogs are behaving yourself, it's easy for dogs. You think, oh, everybody wants good things for dogs. Don't we all love our puppies? But then sometimes you may have someone that takes something away from you, or who you think may not wish you well, maybe isn't on your side, or somebody who judges you, or somebody who maybe has even stolen from you, taken something from you. Now at that point it's a little bit more difficult, but still, if we were to think about what Rinpoche had taught, he would say that is an opportunity to have a good heart. At least that's what I understood him to say. That this is an opportunity to have a good heart. And at that point, what do we say to ourselves? If someone takes from us $10, then just, if it's our last $10 and we're not going to eat for the week, we may have a problem. But for the most part, that isn't the case with us. We just think, well, we make wishing prayers. May that person not suffer even one moment for having taken that money. And indeed, may that person have every kind of prosperity in every future lifetime. And so you make that prayer and that wish for them, and you feel better. You may not get your $10 back, but actually the chances that you will get your $10 back in some fashion are much better. In fact, to increase the flow of generosity toward oneself, naturally, one would increase the flow of generosity towards others. And after habituating and practicing that way, and constantly wishing for the well-being of others, wishing for their happiness, wishing for their good health, wishing for their prosperity, we begin to establish a different kind of mind state. And that mind, instead of chattering away about what it wants and being inflamed with gimme, 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 and gotcha, 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 instead that mind is a natural flow. Like, I see the equality of all that lives. I understand that when sentient beings do things that bring them more misery, such as taking some $10, I have compassion for that because I know in the future, because the Buddha has taught, that will increase their suffering. So my wish for them is, please never do that again. Please, may there be no suffering, due to what has just happened. And may you always have enough so that you don't need to take. And that's the way to practice. But see, we can wear our robes all day long and read our books all day long, but unless we are willing to open up the context of our path, it's never going to work. You could do the most profound, most wonderful practice sitting down, but if you don't habituate the mind towards generosity, if you don't give rise to the bodhicitta, if you don't purify the body, speech, and mind, then we haven't really followed the instructions. We haven't really practiced accordingly. So, our intention should precede and give rise to everything we do. We're striving here for liberation. And remember, one of the meanings of liberations is consciously reincarnating for the benefit of sentient beings. Or that's one of the symptoms, or I guess you could say, or one of the phenomena of liberation, is that we give rise to a form that benefits sentient beings and we lead them from suffering. So in order for that to happen, in order to be conscious, we have to be conscious all the time, not just during our practice. And that's a very difficult habit to cultivate. But once you get the knack of it, it brings a great deal of joy and satisfaction. When we meditate on ourselves and how much we want and how much we're not getting, we simply increase the inflammation of our emotional body, our mental body. We increase the habituation of grasping. We only make ourselves more miserable. But when we make good wishing prayers for others, when we try to benefit others, even in the smallest way, when we try at least to create harmony and to be kind, and when our intention is to truly benefit others, oddly enough, the person that gets the most out of that is ourselves. We are the ones that receive the benefit of that because we begin to awaken. One of the most important things that we can do is to engage in some kind of, and this is part of what the Buddha has taught, contemplation, prayerfulness, inner mindfulness, not only when we're doing an actual practice, but continuously. And so, when we contemplate our lives, we may look at our lives in different ways. We might say, it's kind of in sections. Here's my work part, and here's my rest part, and here's my play part, and here's my Dharma part. We might say, see, I've got all these different sections in life, and we might look to take these sections apart piece by piece and to transform them in some way. That's okay. You can do that. You may discover that there are parts of your work of your life that you have completely separated from the virtue of Dharma thinking. Like, for instance, this is the kind of thing that happens a lot. You might think, well, here when I'm at the temple, that's good. When I'm with people that speak Dharma, that know what we're talking about and understand the idea of compassion, okay, well, I'll practice when I'm there. But when I go into the dog-eat-dog world, how am I supposed to practice there? And in fact, one of the reasons why monks and nuns take robes is in order to renounce that sort of activity so that they can concentrate on their practice. I mean, that's one reason to dress as they dress and to take the vows that they have taken, is so that they can really adhere to their practice and renounce things, take up what is valuable and let go of what is useless. So that's the value of taking these robes. For those of us that remain lay people, it's a little bit different. Many of us have to go to work, and we even think of it like, oh, my brain is divided. When I'm doing Dharma activity, I'm very right-brained, and when I'm doing my regular work, I'm very left-brained, and what a drag. So we might think, well, then that's my excuse, you see, because you can't really count that left brain stuff as part of the world of Dharma. And so in a situation where there's competition and there's different sort of personalities that may or may not give a big flip about compassion, how are you supposed to continue to practice? Well, that's exactly where you need to practice. That's exactly your opportunity. That is your opportunity. You would not have that opportunity if it were not possible to practice there. So, when you, to practice at work or to practice in a place where there is no Dharma, really there need not be any outward expression of it. You don't need to wear your Dharma clothes. You don't have to put your beads around your neck. You don't have to wear your shield and your sword and your armor or whatever. You're just yourself. You're just yourself. 2 legs, 2 arms, most of you. Some hair, a face. You walk around in the world and try to give rise to the bodhicitta. You think, now I'm about to do something here. I'm about to plant a bush. I'm going to plant this beautiful azalea bush, let's say. And so I think to myself, now I'm about to plant this azalea bush. Well, that's pretty ordinary. I hope I get done quick so I could go eat some pizza or something. That would be very ordinary, but now you would think to yourself, now I'm going to dig in the ground. In the ground there may be many sentient beings that I can't see. And so, while digging in the ground, you can practice to yourself, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Just quietly, you don't have to make a big deal. Om Mani Padme Hum for those many beings that will be dug up, that are just as important in that they have the same Buddha nature that you do. And then when you put your tree or your bush on the ground, you think, oh, may the fruit or the flower of this please the 3 precious jewels. May the gurus, the Buddhas, the bodhisattvas, the dakinis, and the protectors all be pleased by the scent and color and beauty of this plant. Why do we think that we have to maintain such an ordinary gray mind when we have this opportunity to give rise to beauty and generosity? And maybe when we go to work, maybe we do something like clean somebody's house. We think, oh, that's such a lowly occupation. How in the world can a person be happy doing such a lowly thing as that? Well, if they're totally unconscious and all they can perceive is lowliness, then yes, it's pretty unhappy stuff. But supposing you were able to go to work and to clean house for someone, and to think, instead of thinking, boy, what a crappy house, and boy, don't they make a mess, and don't you wish they could put something away once in a while? Instead of thinking like that, maybe you could think, with every pass of the cloth, may their non-virtue be cleared. With every wipe of the sponge, may their suffering be wiped away. The causes of their suffering be wiped away. With every bit of cleaning that I do, may all causes of suffering for all sentient beings be completely washed away so that they could receive the pure nectar of Dharma. And so we think like that constantly. It's not easy to do at first because the habits come back. The habits of me, me, me. But slowly, over time and with some effort, you can develop a different mind. The mind of bodhicitta, the mind of compassion, the mind of Dharma. However you want to say it, this is the way to do it. You start small and you work at it. The biggest mistake that most people make is that they wait for it to happen. They wait for their minds to change. They do this practice and wear this outfit and carry these beads and dedicate it and wait. Don't you see how flawed that plan would be? When there's so much opportunity, so very many ways that we can be of benefit in this world. And we waste so much time making ourselves miserable with self-concern, rather than opening up our hearts, our minds, and our eyes to perceive the state of sentient beings and to give rise to the bodhicitta for their sake. The bodhicitta is beneficial to sentient beings, to all beings. We know that. When Rinpoche came last week, it was amazing to see how the kindness on him just drips off of him like honey. It just fills the room. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm just need a drool cup. His kindness just melts the hardest heart, I think. And so we can see the benefit that it has for others. When you're in the room with someone that has true bodhicitta, that has true caring, you feel it. It changes you. It's an effect that doesn't leave. It may be small, especially if you don't nurture it, but you're changed. And then you have to ask yourself, well then, will it also change me? Well, yes. If you give rise to the bodhicitta, then you are equal with all beings. And so there is compassion for oneself as well. So, when you look at those who develop that mind of kindness, and I like to use Rinpoche, he's such a good example. His mind is so peaceful. His composure, so elegant. I look at him and I think of a dancer. On the subtle edge of enlightenment for our sake. How amazing. So it must be that for many lifetimes of cultivating the bodhicitta, since I don't know that I can use myself as an example, let me use Rinpoche as an example. After many lifetimes of cultivating the bodhicitta, there is that mind appearing in the world as peace, as light, as serenity, joyfulness. Doesn't he strike you that way? Me too. And it makes you want to be near that always. And I think what he's trying to tell you is that you have that power. You want to be near that always. Well, what's holding you back? Not me. Not His Holiness. Not Rinpoche. Only you. And so, to give rise to this mind, to negotiate with oneself, how to always have the good intention. You know, no matter what you do, no matter what it seems like, if you're just driving in traffic and you're ready to curse everybody, to have a different kind of intention. That's valuable. And that's how to always be in that presence. In fact, when we view the Guru and when we see somebody like Muksan Rinpoche, who is like golden nectar and honey, and we always want some of that drizzled all over us. We just feel so happy in his presence. And yet, on the other hand, we are supposed to view the Guru without attachment. So what does that tell us? That we must give rise to the bodhicitta as well. It isn't any more about being around somebody or something than it is about yourself and you being more and more fixed in your ego. It's not like that. It's that when we see that kindness, we drink that nectar. To mix our mind with the Guru, when we practice the Guru Yoga, when we practice seven-line prayer or any of the Guru Yoga practices, we should mix our mind with that of the Guru. And if we see that beauty and that love, then we see that, we recognize that, and we realize this is a reflection of our own nature. And we ourselves give rise to that as well. And that's how we stay close to that. That's how we receive the nectar of that blessing. It's not about clinging to a person or a thing or one's practice or one's beads or one's clothing, but rather constantly contemplating phenomena, giving rise to good intention, remaining in that state of equanimity, remembering that the Buddha has taught that all beings are essentially equal, and in their nature, no matter what they look like, they contain that Buddha seed. And so they are precious beyond expression. And no one is higher than anyone else. We all have the same nature. For many of us, maybe the door is closed or the window is very dirty, and maybe we can't feel the brilliance of our nature, or we haven't given rise to that yet. But in truth, our natures are all the same. So when you see somebody like Rinpoche, and you are agog, try to understand that that is also your nature. That you are that as well. And the way one accomplishes that is through practice. It's not an emotional thing. You don't see people like Rinpoche going around getting all giddy and emotional. Their kindness is poured out like milk to whoever will drink it. And it's not really that personal. And yet it's so intimate that by looking at that and looking into the eyes of a great bodhisattva like that, we begin to understand the beauty and truth of our own primordial wisdom nature. So my suggestion to you is to not wait for time to practice, to not wait to see if your mind will change, to not fall into the trap of doing your practice and then hoping for the best, that somehow your mind will flip over like a pancake. I mean, some people actually ask, will I ever achieve realization in this lifetime? Is that possible? I mean, and the Lama goes, you're asking me? You're the one in charge. Of course it's possible. Why would the Lamas be here teaching if it weren't possible? These are the Buddha's teachings. But we have to grab the opportunity. It's for us to take that, to use every minute, and to not get neurotic about it by going, 10 minutes just went by and I was mindless again. Pfft, that was only the time you caught. So every time you catch yourself, you go, right, good girl, good boy. Pat yourself on the head. Get back to work, get back to it. And we think that in order to gather merit, for instance, we have to do certain specific things, like, in the Nundro book, for instance, we do mandala practice with the rice and the rings and all that stuff. But then we go outside and we go, wow, look at my car. Isn't that a sexy car? Or, God, what a gorgeous day. I'm going to have to just jump in the lake. I feel so happy. I'm going to swim, and I'm just going to have lots of fun. And, ordinary. Well, I'll have a picnic. Or I'll go climb a mountain and be free. Something like that. We don't even think to ourselves. We sit in our practice, we offer rice, and we visualize it as phenomena. Here's phenomena. And we're grasping left and right, You can offer everything. When your eyes see something, offer it to the three precious jewels. Offer it to the Lama of three kayas. Offer it to the Guru, past, present, and future. Offer it to the protectors, to the dakinis. Anybody except you. But you can use any moment of happiness and make it even more beautiful when you offer it. My experience has been that when you have a moment of happiness and you have that twinkle in your eye and you feel like having a good time, and you take that moment and grab it to yourself and selfishly just go act out somehow. I don't know. Do what? Do what you do. Whatever people do. Climb a mountain, go have drinks, go party, whatever it is that people, I don't know. I never leave my house. So whatever it is that people do. And we think that's going to do it. I have this moment of bliss, and so I'm going to take it and I'm going to ramp it up. I'm going for it. I'm going to have a great Saturday night. And usually what happens is you end up very unhappy. Because you get to the top of the mountain, if that's what you were going to do, and man, it's just another mountain. You've seen mountains before. Great view. You've seen great views before. Or you decide you're going to go out partying. So you go out partying. And for a little while, when you're bending the old elbow, you know, there's a little happiness in that, I guess. But then you don't feel so good. And if you don't feel bad that night, you're going to feel bad the next day. And then you really feel stupid, don't you? Because you've had this opportunity, there was a wonderful, blissful moment, and you wasted it on garbage. You didn't even do anything healthy for yourself. It was just a complete waste. Or then, you know, you think, well, I'm going to, you know, I think I'll have what would you do, like a movie? What is it, you can watch one movie after another? Huh? Marathon, that's it. I'll do what I really like. I'll have a movie marathon. And at the end of that, your mind is like, you don't even know what you are anymore. You're like, you've seen all these things that have ended in 2 hours. You're like, I'm lost. I don't know what's happening. And really, what happens in a situation like that is we are out to lunch. We are really training our minds to be out to lunch. So I'm not saying that you should never party again, depending on your vows. I'm not saying that you should never have a good time again or climb any mountains or think your car is sexy. I'm not saying that you should become some sort of freakish person that doesn't fit in this world. But I am saying train your mind. The way Rinpoche has done. Lifetime after lifetime. And look at the sweetness and nectar. The prize of that effort is so beautiful and beyond compare. So, I guess that's my message for today. Short and sweet. I hope that you will take every opportunity and really practice Dharma more deeply, not just when you're sitting down, but constantly training the mind, constantly using your opportunities. And that's pretty much all I want to say today. Nanda.